We are waiting for our guest to show up here, and I'm excited about this one. We have a nice guy coming on, that's for sure. Hope everybody's doing well today. We're starting to see some corners turn here in a few states, which I'm excited about. So welcome to Wednesdays with Ward. We're waiting for our guest to show up here, and we'll get started. And hearing some news out of Arizona and Nevada and a couple other places that are very encouraging. Long waits for people to get their haircuts. Some folks are doing some amazing things like tipping $100, tipping $50, tipping $60. We're seeing some great activity with folks that are really passionate about their hairdressers and doing what they can to help. Hi Donald, how you doing? Hey Jay Williams, go. We're waiting for you. Hit your invite, Jay, and we'll bring you on. But it's exciting, so I'm pumped for the future. I know we've gotten some interesting news here lately about how much further we're going to maybe push out California. Jay, hit your invite, Jay. Ask to go live with me on the bottom, and that'll bring you on. And so we're pumped about that. Like I said, I know we're going to push out of here, but there's a lot of things that we can start learning from Arizona and Nevada and about being prepared. So we're gonna start sharing some of those ideas, probably next week or the week after, about what's happening there, the feedback. Today we're going to talk through some things to assist with that as well. Jay, waiting for Jay. Give a shot in there, Jay. I know I can see you on there. Let me see if I can find you. I'll try to invite you. Let's see. Go live with Jay. I'll pull you in. Go. Waiting for Jay at this point. Connecting. There he is.
Hey.
Man.
There we go. All right.
So this is husband, father, author, leader, thinker, strategist, and all-around great guy, Mr. Jay Williams. Man, I'm so pumped to be talking to you today. The crazy thing, Jay, is I can't believe how busy you have been on the talk circuit. I mean, you've been on Ellen, The Tonight Show, Steve Harvey, Live with Kelly and Ryan, Dr. Oz, Dr. Phil, and you capped it off with my favorite, Diners, Drive-In, and Dives.
Yeah, I've had some newfound flexibility in my schedule. I don't know if that's true for everybody, but for me, so I thought, why not? I had these openings here. Yeah.
Right, and then you take your time to actually do Wednesdays with Ward, this little humble show from Anaheim. It's awesome.
I saved the best for last. So
that's very cool. So thanks for joining us today. And I know there's a lot of folks that are anxious to hear from you, as well as I. But before we get started on some of the topics we want to talk about, why don't you tell us a little bit about you, where you come from, a little bit about your background.
Where to start, right? Well, let's start with this industry. So I got into the industry 17 years ago, and my wife is a headhunter, a recruiter. She finds people jobs. Yes. So she had developed this relationship with Bumble, and it was prior to Estee Lauder acquiring them. And about the time that she was working with them, that started to happen. So they're looking to double their sales team. And she told me about the industry, and you can't tell by looking, but I had not been in a salon in my entire life at that point. No, I had not been in one. So, she said, hey, listen, your background about things you talk about cultures and about values and emotional intelligence, and it's a natural alignment. And I said, I don't know that I see it, but thank you. So about 6 months in, I started to meet some of the folks that she was interviewing and the company she, was working for. And honestly, Ward, it was the next best thing to rock and roll. I could wear an earring, which I couldn't do before. And the people were just wired already. They're emotionally engaged. And I came from corporate America, maybe a little bit more staunch. And so that's really where I started things out.
Now, you were really, originally from the West Coast, correct?
I was. I grew up in Gardena. So not Beverly Hills, but Gardena.
They're close to the same.
On a map, where they are very, very close. very close. And so, yeah, I grew up there. And when I was 24, I met my wife on a business trip in New Jersey. And so we met, we had this whirlwind romance. 6 months later, we were married. I did propose to her not too far from you in Laguna Beach. And she said, oh, I can't wait to get to California. And that's been my lifelong dream. She came to California. 5 months later, we were back in New Jersey. So I'll just shorten this story. So right now, I live outside Philadelphia in an area called Bucks County, about 45 minutes outside Philadelphia.
So I always say people either move for love or money. You just proved my point again. You moved for love. I like it.
Yes. Yeah. It wasn't for money. I was thinking about that. It wasn't for money. Yes.
Hey, so growing up, you've shared with me over the past that growing up, you didn't necessarily have, an easy childhood, right? And so, I was thinking about our conversations in the past, and you are a deep thinker. I mean, you like to dive into stuff. Where does that come from? I mean, is that something your parents came through, or is it because of your childhood? I mean, tell us how did that passion get there?
Listen, are you going to make me cry? Is this going to be an Oprah kind of moment
That's
here?
That's what this show's about.
That's what it's about. Okay, all right, you got me to cry. It's interesting that you say deep thinker. So you're married. I'll be married 30 years in June. 30 years for me. So my wife says I overthink things. Yes, I overthink. So I think it's very subjective. It's in this constant desire to better understand, I think is where the tendency to think deeper and to just, how can we do things different? And, my experience early on in my life and certainly through my career is that when things weren't working, we just tried harder. We did the same thing. We just did more of it and did it harder.
Right.
And I saw that it wasn't working. And I saw that knowledge was readily available. I mean, today you can ask Alexa or you can Google anything. And, for me, I remember reading once is that the number one skill going forward will be your ability to help people think different. And I think it was that one statement that was written by this futurist that really connected me to kind of how I was wired. And, maybe I found my calling was to offer new and different and deeper thinking.
You have an ability most people would love to have, and that is to build trust quickly. I mean, you do it quickly. And I know that's something that people have to practice. I mean, where do people go or where do they go in their own self to learn how to build trust with people quickly? I mean, what is it? You can do it remarkably well.
You're kind. Thank you. It's what I would share with you is it is a skill. And the good news about that is if it's important to you, it's much like hair cutting for the people in this audience, or maybe something that they've, I can't equate it to Michael Jordan, but there's some natural ability, but he will tell you it's this repetition and this intentional practice that you have. I'll share with you why it's so important to me is I read a book, her name's Amy Cuddy, she's a social psychologist, wrote this book, Presence. And in her research, she said, this is universally true, no matter where you are in the country, that human beings seek out two things in every single interaction: trust and respect. Mm. And, when I heard it, and when you look at our business and look at what's going on today, right? I mean, there's a lot of uncertainty in the world, and we don't know what to do, which direction to go, and what's going to happen. And you look at what needs to happen with innovation and relationships, and it all gets down to that, is trust. And you look at what's going on with our government and our politics, and not to get into that, but if there's something that's missing, it's this trust. And so for me, I happened to read a book by a guy, Stephen Covey Jr., and I was on a flight actually to California, and I read the book, and Ward, as I was reading it, have you ever read something and you just speechless? You just got to process it.
Right.
And I was just taking it in. And I said, this is game changing. It really is. And so after reading the book, when I got off the plane, had a chance to just research a little bit and found that they're based in Utah. And not only could you go for the 2-day workshop, you could stay a third day and you could get certified. And honestly, I thought, it's of interest to me. It's going to be a bunch of tree huggers there. And I get there, the U.S. government, American Airlines, and Disney was there. And what I discovered, and it's never been more true than today, that trust is the new currency. And so you asked, about the focus and how I do it quickly, is just practice. But I had to understand first that this is the new currency in which we operate. And the better understanding I have our currency, just like money, the more successful I'd be in my relationships.
Yeah, it's powerful. I mean, I see you interact in classrooms, and I'm like, man, you really build a trust with the audience quickly. You get them to open up and really talk. And I find that that skill set is very good with you, and I think more people should learn from that, especially as we're moving forward. Like you said, there's going to be, and I think that's always a good question too. I think as we're moving forward, I don't know where fear and trust lie. I don't know if you can be fearful of someone or some situation yet still trust it. How do we navigate those fears moving forward? I mean, how are hairdressers going to navigate them? Clients are going to walk in and they've got to know, man, there's a trust beforehand, but now there might be a gap there. Would you agree?
Yeah, you articulated it well. This is what we're dealing with, is trust. And so as a salon owner, as a business owner, if you're running the airlines, what you're looking to establish is trust. That they can trust when they come to your establishment. In our case right now, is that you're not going to get the virus. And so as a culture, that's what you talk about, is what are the things that need to happen to build trust. And so I'd love to take credit for this, but I won't. I had to pause. I know, I had to pause. Everyone else will. But Stephen Covey really simplified it very easy. He said there's character and there's competence. Those are the two things. And so even if we just show the applicability to a business, they have to show their character. So you look at insurance companies right now, and you've seen an advertisement where they say, we know these are going to be difficult times, and you won't be using your vehicle. You will be at home, and we're going to rebate 15% of your premium. Is that familiar to you? They understand that trust is the new currency. It's not about giving money back. It's about building trust. And they can do it around their character, because they always say, we're here when you need us, which some people, struggle with that whole concept that they're not. But they're ahead of the curve there, because if they can build the trust, there's a speed to trust. The higher the trust in a relationship, the higher the speed in which things happen. And so when we look in our business, what they're trying to do is to build trust with the client, that the salon's intentions are good. And that's why it's so imperative that we adhere to the strategies that they have in place. And then the integrity, do we do what we say we're going to do? So do we hold our people accountable? Do we hold clients accountable? And if someone's not wearing a mask, to build trust with your employees and with your client base, you have to tell them that, listen, in effort for everyone to trust us, including yourself, this is what needs to happen. If that's not something that you want to do, no problem. Here are 3 other salons in the area that you can go to. Now, the compliance comes from the state, can't tell you to be different. They may be more flexible with you. So again, in a respectful manner, you share it, but what you're protecting as an owner is this currency, is the trust that I have with my people, that I'll defend this, because that is a concern as you listen for people who own businesses, is there's 2 different cultures there. There's your clients, can they trust you, and can your employees trust you?
That's big. I was thinking about this, Jay, as we were talking about trust and these people, starting to come into salons. One of the concerns I'm finding when talking to would-be hairdressers going back to the salon is we talk about pricing, and there's fear in that price. But I would also suggest that there might be some trust issues if the client walks in, was used to paying $150 for a service that they normally would get, and all of a sudden it's $200 because of the PPE expenses that are going to go along with it. What message does that send? Does that blow the trust out? Will clients understand? There's going to be some gap there that's got to be filled, right? I mean, we can't expect salon owners and stylists to absorb the pricing of government mandated issues. So, how do we build that trust quickly, and what are the things that the stylists and salon owners can do to bridge that gap?
Well, let me start with an example. So, Ward, I don't think you're old enough, but there's something called 9/11 in 2001. So just bear with me. Yeah. So if you look at that, there's a breach in trust there. I mean, it was universal across the country, and we just shut down as a world. We couldn't trust flying. We couldn't trust going out of our homes, anything. And so it's 19 years later, right? And you go, well, that's something that happened 19 years ago. So last year, probably a lot like you acquire some points when you travel. And so I was going to redeem points so my wife could go with me. The points were free, or they're absolutely free. I paid an $81 fee. Do you know what that was? It's a security fee. There was a breach in trust 19 years ago.
Wow.
And we still pay for it 19 years later. So I share that with you because if you're a salon owner and you're struggling, here's what I said, and I may ruffle some feathers here, and then it will be time well spent if I did. Okay, fantastic. Is that people want to put a COVID fee on there. This is a trust issue. It's not a COVID issue. It's a trust issue. So I would build it into your price because what you're looking to do is to build their trust in you. And this is why you're doing it. You're not doing it because of COVID. You're doing it to build their trust. They can trust that it's safe for you and for the employees. And I share that with the airlines because I gladly paid that fee, Ward. You know why? Because I can trust that when I go into the airport, I'm safe. I can trust when I get on the plane, I'm safe. When I make the return trip, safe. And that's what I think clients will do is that they're safe. If human beings, their nature for food, water, shelter, safety, it does supersede everything else. Right. And I think that's what we need to understand is that we're providing safety for them and building trust that you can trust us. We'll do everything within our power to make you feel safe. And if people trust you, the price becomes secondary to that trust and that experience.
Right. Yeah, I think you hit it right on the nose. It's got to be a trust level. And the other thing that we're going to be dealing with, and I think on a wide variety, is emotion. Right. I mean, the scale from one end to the other is going to be huge. I mean, you can see it at a local grocery store, right? Some people are walking in and they're gloved up, hazmat suits on, and other people don't have a mask on. They're not doing anything. They're going there shopping. Makes you figure out nobody will trust that grocery store anymore. Yeah. So we're going to be dealing, right? So we're going to be dealing with this very, very, non-specific emotion that we can't really find. We don't know if they're scared, if they're just, some clients are going to rip their mask off in the middle of service and go, I don't want to wear this anymore. I trust you. So where do we deal with this emotion? What do you think?
Here's what, if you hear the pause here, in my career, I've always used this line. So, I do things around conflict resolution and mediation. And I've always had this line to go to, is it a life or death situation? And Ward, as you can imagine, especially in our industry, 99.9% of the time, it's not. That's not the case now. And I think we need to have this awareness that there is something at stake. Potentially it could be life or death. And what happens with that is that your emotional brain kicks in and it hijacks the rational brain. And it does it because it wants to protect you. And that's where the fear comes about. And fear has served mankind extremely well. I mean, it was one of the first emotions we experienced when we saw that saber-toothed tiger and it ate our friend. Right. We went back to the tribe and go, hey, you should be afraid of that big cat with the big teeth because it'll kill you. But that's why we're around today, is because fear served us well. And so for those of you who are listening, and if I could preface everything, Ward, this way, is that here's what we're dealing with now, is that one, we have financial needs. And then that's a filter. And then there's our health needs. And the third thing is we have this freedom that we may have to give up to get those things. And that's a struggle for us. And so what it does is it puts us into our emotional brain. And the emotional brain operates, it hasn't evolved over time like the rational brain has. It operates fear, that's its familiarity. But here's the deal, it doesn't differentiate between real and perceived danger. It reacts the exact same way. And this is where you have the ability to really dig in and to ask yourself, is it a fear? Meaning, is it a feeling, or is it a fact, which is data? And so as you go into the salon, one of the things is to differentiate between fear and fact. So I'm going to talk to you as an employee or as an owner, first of all, is that the fear that something could happen that would jeopardize your health, that's healthy. Where it becomes unhealthy is when the data doesn't support that fear. So if you're going into a salon, first of all, congratulations. I heard a statistic 2 days ago. They believe 40 to 50% of the salons will not make it through. So if you're in a salon, good news to you. The second thing, if your owner has the financial resources to implement everything you need to do up front, that's good news. Harry Wood, I heard him talking, there was an interview and they replayed it. He said he had a doctor come in and nurses have been coming in and they told him this may be safer than our hospitals. I feel safer. Wow. And so I share that with you because we have this fear it's not safe. Yet when you look at all the data and the facts that are there, they don't support that. And so the first thing to do is to ask yourself, if this is a fear, which is a healthy thing, is just to go a little bit deeper and ask, is it a realistic fear? Because if it's a realistic fear, like the saber-tooth tiger, don't go around the tiger. But if it's not realistic in the salon, then you want to rethink that situation. That's a loaded question. I tried to consolidate it.
It is a loaded question. It is a loaded question. Back to the pricing thing, Sonia just put a question up there. So should we put a COVID fee in? Just to clarify, what you're saying is just raise your prices.
Yeah, here's what I'd say to you. Let me help shift the thinking for you, okay? Is that, and this is important for you guys to understand, is that whatever decisions you make today need to be sustainable decisions. You can't deviate from your brand and your mission and your vision to make a momentary decision. And if I asked you guys, do you think you're going to see less, the same, or more clients in a day? I think everybody would answer, we're going to see less people, Jay. That's the truth. If I asked you, do you think there's going to be less of a demand, the same demand, or more demand? I think everybody would agree that there's going to be more of a demand. So what we've just agreed upon is there's going to be more demand, less supply. And so, listen, I'm not an economist by any means, but here's the example I would share with you is that we're all hearing about the shortage with pork and with beef. And here's what they said on the news, is that the supply is low, the demand is high. Here's what you can expect when you go to the supermarket, is that the prices will be higher. So I would just share with you to begin to shift your thinking. People understand this, and other industries are open to that. The second thing I want you to think through, maybe you guys can share this back with your teams as you think, is that we're all in agreement that there is a cost associated to creating this trust that is the new currency. If I ask stylists, do you think your clients should pay? They said, well, no, we think that we're gouging them, or we shouldn't gouge them. Well, first of all, I didn't say to gouge them, but that's interesting that that's your perception. So the first thing is to shift your thinking there. And I said, well, is your owner adjusting your commissions? And they're like, no. So I said, okay, so the three stakeholders, the client, the stylist, and the owner, who do you think's absorbing that cost? They go, oh, it must be the owner. I said, what do you think the fair thing to do is? And it never includes the stylist taking a cut in their commission. So if you're listening, don't get scared. That's not what I'm saying. It's somewhere between the owner and the client. And so I want to begin to shift your thinking. And so with most owners, almost 100%. It is 100%. No one's not said this, that, Jay, I'm not looking to gouge them. I'm not looking to make money on them. I just need to cover this new investment in their experience. And realize the words that I choose. This is what it is. The airlines invested in my experience when I fly in the airlines. I'm no longer nervous.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And so what I would share with the client is when there is a price increase, is to tell them, yeah, and it's only $7. Yeah, and it's only $6. Because there's something called the social comparison theory. When people don't know how to respond to a situation, they look for the highest ranking person.
Right.
How you respond is most often how they will respond. I know you fly, and I imagine the majority of the people do, although I ran into someone the other day, 23 years old, never been on a plane, so I don't want to take anything for granted. But do you guys recognize this? When you've went flying, right? And all of a sudden there's some turbulence there. And I don't know about you, as much as I've flown, I still get nervous. However, over the intercom, what do you hear? Hi, this is your flight attendant. We're experiencing a little bit of turbulence. We'll be suspending the movie and drink service momentarily. And thank you for flying American Airlines. And what are you? Like, oh, right? Now, if that's a situation to be nervous in, if there is one, that's it. You're 30,000 feet in the air. Right. Yet, because of the social comparison theory, someone that you perceive as being higher ranking in that situation shows calm, you show calm. Right. And so as a stylist, what's important now, it's not going to be your technical skills, the cutting and coloring. I assume you have that. It'll be your non-technical skills that will help you navigate through this. And so how you show up, if you say, yeah, sorry, we had to raise prices, or my owner, they're the ones who want to, it wasn't, the person's going to respond in kind. So I would encourage you that you shift your thinking and your emotions. And the thinking is I'm excited to be in a position to do what's necessary so that you can trust our culture, so that employees trust it, so that we are here for you now and in the future. And that investment was only an extra $7.
It was kind of interesting when you think about the pricing gap here, and I think we've always dealt with this, regardless of what we're about to deal with now, right? But do you tell them in advance? Do you text them without giving them? Somebody just asked that question. Do we text them the information in advance without? I mean, how do they put that message out, or do you wait till they're sitting in the chair?
Yeah, so one of the things that you mentioned is very interesting to me that I didn't discover probably until 10 years in the industry. Stylists don't like to talk about pricing. Right, go figure, right? Yeah. So it's funny because I was at an event and someone brought this to my attention. I came home to my wife. I said, Monique, how much is your haircut? What do you think she said? She goes, I don't know. I go, when do you find out? She goes, when I check out. So it kind of validated that whole. It was also proof, though, that the price was secondary to the experience. Very, very interesting. And so what I would share with you is that, here's what I tell you, is that people that know how to function in transparency are going to be the most successful people in business today. And I will give you a clear example. And by the way, I'm not here to judge, and this is not denigrating either one. I'm just giving you an example. If you look at McDonald's and Five Guys, I'm imagining they're both across the country. McDonald's, and I haven't been in there recently, but from what I remember, you couldn't see beyond a certain point. You probably didn't want to see what was going on. And so they function off of combination meals and supersizing, if they're still doing that, and promotions and advertising. And then you have someone like Five Guys, who is at the top of burgers for me. I absolutely love. And you walk in there, you can see right into the kitchen. I can see what everyone's doing. It's wide open there. They want you they'll tell you where the potatoes came from. They know how to function in transparency. I never see them advertise. There is no combo in there. And I'm paying $8 to $9 for a burger. Right. So I share that as a stylist because their point of differentiation is not their price. When you're hesitant on price, there's a thinking that's there that somehow this influences why people come to me. And when you look at Five Guys, and I'm not equating the two, I'm equating the thinking behind it, that won't be our point of difference. We're going to double down on our experience, the quality of our food, how we accommodate you. And so with your clients, I would tell them we're excited to share with you that we've taken everything that's been asked of us and then some, so that you can trust the environment. When you come in, here's what your new pricing will be. That's transparency. That's honesty.
Right. Yeah, and it allows them to make a decision, right? And the decision, as you know, is going to be, I want to see my hairdresser. I mean, they're going to want to see you, and you know, that trust level is there. But I think the trust level has to go back. I think that the hairdresser needs to trust their client that they're going to make the right decision. The hairdresser needs to trust their client that they still love them, and trust the client wants to do well by them. And we could see that just from the fact that you know, clients are leaving $50, $100 tips with people. I mean, you know, that doesn't happen every day. I mean, to you know, if you were a stylist, Jay, they'd be living, you know, $1,000 tips, but you know.
Well, I have some free time. I could pick that up. Yeah.
But that's the environment in which I think the trust kind of goes back and forth, right? I mean,
you articulated it well, because this has to be a mutually beneficial relationship. And as a stylist, if you're making less money and less take home, you're going two things. I have competing thoughts that I want to share. Let me think of where to go. You're talking about trust. And if a stylist is listening and they go, well, how the heck do I measure trust?
Right.
Here's the great news in our industry. You have a metrics that's already built in. It's your retention. If you don't know, go back to your retention. If you have 60, 70% retention, then 60 or 70% of your clients trust you enough to make that commitment to you. That's where you are. And so when I talk about fear and I talk about facts, if you're fearful that they won't pay, then go to the facts, because the trust won't lie. Now, if 60 or 70% of it have it, that's what's going to happen. 30 of this percent may. But the trust in the relationship is what you want to leverage. That is the currency. And you brought up an excellent point, is that trust goes both ways. You have to trust them. And I've heard the same stories you have about people, whether they're buying gift cards or they're leaving tips. They've already demonstrated their character by doing that. I've heard people go, you know what, I want to pay for my next 2 or 3 haircuts, right? Yeah. That's their character. And then their competence is their capability and their results. Can they come back to you? Can they refer you? And they do those things for you. So as a stylist, this fear that's a feeling, you just have to balance the facts. And the facts is, if you have this book of business, people will support you. I will tell you emphatically that the prices become secondary to me getting what I want when I want it now, Ward. And listen, you know, don't misunderstand my financial situation. I'm just saying that now the accessibility to something, the convenience for me, I will pay for that for my own personal comfort. And so here's what happens. It's imperative as you're listening that you grasp this piece. You cannot forget your mission. Your mission is to make people feel better. That has not changed.
Right.
The military has a mission. Can you imagine if they lost sight of their mission during the war?
Yeah, we'll change it all.
Yeah, we're going to, no. This is the mission, to make people feel better. Everything has to go through that filter by making them feel better. The price will become secondary to making them feel better. I'm not talking about any level of insensitivity. And the reality is, if that is an issue for them, is that there are other people generally in your salon that can bridge that gap for them. Because sure. I will share with you this, is that salons are going to go out, stylists are going to go out, people are going to try to get into places they can't get in, and you're going to be able to free up your book for people who see a correlation in the value that you deliver and the price that they're paying.
Yeah, you bring up an excellent point there, going back to supply and demand, right? Microeconomics, I believe that was the course Guns and Butter they talked about.
Yeah.
We start getting in those situations where, you know, in fact, I spoke to a salon yesterday, good conversation about their Friday opening. And then I talked to them about their Monday and what the difference was between the two. I thought it was really kind of interesting comment. She said, well, normally we'd only be open till 2 on Mondays, but we stayed open till, I want to say they did 8 to 8 or something of that nature. she goes, you know, Ward, it was really interesting that we can't double book anymore. And so the craziness of the double booking was gone, and actually the salon ran a lot smoother, and it was less chaos. And I thought that was an interesting comment. Like there were calmness in that fact that there wasn't just a bunch of people standing there waiting to get their hair cut like normal. And so, you know, with that, you know, pricing is going to be, you know, expected to rise and guaranteed. With, you know, if I can't get in, I'm going to pay more to get it done. I mean, that's just a reality. And so, you know, I think Sonia's hitting all kinds of good questions, but she also asked about, you know, if we can't do blow dries and we can't do shampoos, right? Put them on the back bar. What does that do to our pricing? As the experience isn't exactly the same as leaving with beautiful hair, and they got to go home and blow dry it themselves. You know, how do we handle that situation? Some states may push back. I don't know.
Let me, if I can, start in a different place with you guys. Because sometimes, you know, just giving an answer, it doesn't factor in everything else. And so if you guys will go down this path with me, I want to ask you this question. Do you think that you will make less money, the same money, or more money? So if you guys can just answer for yourself, I think unequivocally, Ward, what we're going to get back is I'm going to make less money. I'm going to see less people. If I'm not raising my prices, does that all make sense to you? And so the question you have to ask yourself is, am I okay with that?
Right.
And now some of you, the next question, you know, that's going to determine that is my flexibility. And I will share with some of you, it's been very entertaining to me. You want to make the exact same money and you don't want to work more hours. And you're going to see less people. And I do enjoy the conversation. It's funny to me, but I get it. Listen, we're all human. Because what you're looking at is the opposite dynamic, is we're going to work a lot harder and we're going to make a little less money. And so there's a couple things you can look at. One is if I can't move away from you can either lower your financial needs to do that, or you can say that I don't have flexibility there, but I do have flexibility in my flexibility, so to speak. And so what I would share with you is don't ask yourself where you're flexible. That's an indefinite period of time. People saying, when are we going to get back to normal? It's forever and always. You can't function like that right now. Just ask yourself, how flexible am I over the next 30 days? Things are going to change. They're going to change tomorrow. They're going to change next. If any of you have gone through the PPP, if any of you have been around for the last 30 days, things change from day to day. So I'd encourage you, when you talk to your clients and you're talking, let's talk about the next 30 days. So for those people is, how flexible am I? Now, where that may show up is you can work more hours in a day. You can work a Sunday, right? So I would encourage you, as you look at your pricing in this compensation before we answer the other question, is if you're not flexible, and you may not be flexible for a myriad of reasons. You may have to take care of your parents. You may have to take care of your kids. There may be some extenuating circumstances. This is not about judging. Then if I can't, this is a fixed entity, my flexibility, meaning it's not, then it's only on what you make. And so that's where you have to look at, what services do I hold on to? Because I can't work more hours, but I do need this money for my family. And so you're going to make a decision. And the decision is do I shampoo? Whatever the state mandates, this becomes, if the state mandates it, I think you have an answer for yourself. If you have flexibility, here's what I'd share with you, is that you're going to have to use your values and your mission to determine what you do. And so if your mission is that we make people feel better, right? Now you're struggling, do I do a shampoo? I would ask the client, because you gotta check off both boxes. This has to be a win-win. Is that, tell them, listen, I'm a people pleaser and I want to make you happy. And here's my fear: if I don't shampoo your hair, it won't make you happy. I don't have the flexibility to do that, but what could I do in its place to show you that I care? There's a whole new skill set that's going to be needed, Ward, now. It's this ability to communicate, to be able to identify and understand emotions in yourself. Like, I need the money, I'm getting stressed. And others, they want what they want, and adjust your behavior accordingly. It's the definition of emotional intelligence. And so for that person, I want to share thinking with you, not answers, because if I give you an answer and you go back and you don't believe it or feel it, it's going to be very, very awkward. So you need to determine where your flexibility is. If it's not around scheduling, so scheduling's one opportunity. The other is what you charge. And if you realize that, and you don't have to gouge people. I want to be careful with this example. Here's what I'd say, is that there's an individual that a lot of you know from television. This individual has made their name with ready-to-wear. In the state of Florida, they had connections in China and struck a deal with them to sell face masks to them. And they sold them at 3 times the cost. They had signed the contract, they found out, and they nixed the contract. The person was gouging them. If you raise your prices in a way that's not gouging, that just represents a reflection of demand, supply, your education, and your experience. And so I was on a call with someone today, and I think you guys have heard this, and if it's a little bit dated, just take the thinking from it. But what used to be true is if you're 80% booked, that you could raise your prices 20%. You heard that formula. 20% of the people may drop off, but your revenue is the same, and it opened up the book for other people. And so don't quote me on that. I just want you to begin to look at the thinking of it. Maybe don't go up 20%. Maybe just go up, $5, $7, $10. And what may surprise you, towards point, is people are going to tell you things like, oh, I was wondering when you're going to raise their prices. Everyone else has, but you. Let me tell you this, because this came up on a call that I was on. They said, well, I'm just worried that people don't have money. Another example of a fear, a feeling. However, the data doesn't support it. This weekend, friends of ours stopped by, social distancing, and he works for a company called McKesson. They fulfill the FEMA needs, masks, gowns, things like that. His company gave out every employee $1,000, $450 for their 401k, and 2 weeks vacation. His wife works as a teacher, and so she's still working. His son works for Freddie Mac, still working. The daughter, a nurse, still working. The other son works for LaGuardia, still working. My point is, everyone is not in a financial situation. I know someone who hasn't basically worked the entire previous year and just got a check for $5,000 from our government. So I just want to share with you. I'll give you another example. We've been married 30 years, Ward, 30 years. Last month, this is the honest to God truth, our credit card was the lowest it's ever been. I said, babe, our credit card's the lowest. We're not going anywhere. We're not doing anything. People do have money. I just want you to shift your thinking. Right. And they have money to pay for that haircut.
Yeah, we talk about the 80-20 rule, right? And so I call it the 80% rule, right? So 80% of the population of workers are still working. And the other thing that you got to look at with that, right? Because Jay, you said your credit cards are the lowest balance. In fact, the reports came out this morning, which I thought was very interesting. Savings across America, which is huge, was up 7%. Savings accounts, and credit card debt was down 30%. You're like, and why? Well, people are making a bunch of money. Not to say a bunch of money, but people that have paychecks, they work for the government, they might be teachers, they work in unions, they might have stable jobs, the economy didn't get affected. They don't have anywhere to go. They can't budget for vacation. They can't go out to eat. They can't get a haircut. They can't do all these things. So the cash is just kind of piling up over there. And you're like, and the first place they're going to want to go is get that haircut.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, and yes, there is that unfortunate 20% on the bottom that's unemployed, and we get that. But yeah, I like that shift you're thinking towards. There's some value up there with people that are doing well, which brings me to a taboo question. Maybe it's not taboo. Maybe it is. It's not personal, I promise.
Okay.
But, well, I mean, we could go down that path. But
you wouldn't be the first or the last.
But yeah. That brings me to...
It was one time, okay? It was an experimental period in my life. Okay.
It's at one time.
I know. Does that? Never mind. Okay.
So, product sales in salons. That is going to be, that's going to be the place where I think hairdressers or salon owners might go, oh my gosh, they're paying for this haircut. Now we got another deal. Do they buy, or do I sell them product? Don't even talk about product. What's your answer? I don't know what's the answer there, but what's your thinking there?
Yeah, I'm never going to give answers. Only my thinking.
Only your thinking, which I like.
Yes. So Yeah, that way, if anyone ever quotes me, that's not what I said. That's what I thought.
Ah,
Okay, completely different. Yeah, so let me contextually put this into perspective. Let's talk about professions. My accountant gave me no hair advice, none whatsoever. And everybody's been talking to your accountant for the PPP, unemployment, taxes, right? Yet you want to give financial advice to your clients. It's just not your role. It's not in the job description. No one's asked you to do that. This is a role you're volunteering for. So when you go to spend their money or somehow you adjust your consultation based on your perception, there's not another profession that you would want that. I don't want my doctor to do that. Well, let me make a recommendation for you, Ward. What insurance do you have? Oh, okay. Well, this is what I would do, right? And so for
right.
you guys, that's an age-old analogy. I'm just saying is that in an effort to do that, you're going to miss the mission, which is to make them feel better. And here's what we know emphatically to be true, and science has justified this, and so the studies support it, is that when people feel better, they look better, they feel better. And so get on the mission to make them feel better. Should you retail? Absolutely not. Should you do your consultation? Absolutely. Now more than ever, they need it. So imagine you're a stylist now, and listen, you're going to have to get very efficient with your conversation because you need to get people in, you need to get clean, you need to get them out, and you need to get more people in. And so the consultation has to be a non-negotiable in this 30-minute, 45-minute construct. And so what you want to do for them is to say, listen, Ward, here's what I want to talk about. I want to know from you on a scale of 1 to 10, where is your comfort level in replicating the look we created today for the next 30 to 35 days? I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if we're going to stay open, we're going to close, if I'm going to be able to get you in. Because the reality is, as a professional in your craft, is that you guys could be booked for months out because of supply and demand.
Right.
And so I want to get you in, and we're going to rebook you right now so that we can get you in as soon as possible. So let's get that out of the way. And where you have a comfort level as far as knowing that you're going to have your appointments, I'll book you out for the rest of the year with the understanding we don't know what's going to go on, but if that's important to you, it's up to them at that point. Who's not going to say yes? There's your rebooking. And the supply and demand works well for you because you get a lot more comfortable when you're booked.
Right.
Don't you know? There's a little bit of confidence, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so in that consultation, we talk about retail, right?
Yeah, well, you're not talking about retail. What we're talking about is how prepared they are. That's your purpose. I'm not going to spend your money. I want you to be prepared. So on a scale of 1 to 10, where's your comfort level of replicating look? Where's your comfort level and that you have the tools to do this? Tell me about your blow dryer. Did you get Bed Bath & Beyond? Where'd you get? Where'd you get your flat iron from? Tell me about the brush. What kind of hairs are on that brush? Tell me about your product. What do you know about it? How are you going to get the volume? How are you going to get the lift? How are you going to get the hold? I just want to know that we have a plan for the next 30 to 35 days. This consultation is imperative. Now, is retail products part of that? Yes. Now, you can do that, or you can go, hey, Ward, here's the products they use today, and I'll put the 3 of them on the counter, and if you want to buy them, Do you see the difference in the two? Do you retail? No. Do you do the consultation? Absolutely. You got to tell them, hey, listen, here's what I know to be true, is that you were texting me. I saw on social media that you're worried about your gray. So let's get you a concealer. The other thing you said is that your hair was very oily, right? So let's talk about that dry shampoo for you. My goal is not to spend your money to determine whether you have it or not. My goal is to share this with you. So I did my part for you.
Right.
In the event, can't see me when you want to see me.
Right. Right. All right. No, I think that's great advice. It's good dialogue. I think that builds a lot of trust. We certainly want to be able to build that trust and make sure they go home. I mean, my fear is that the stylist will have that uncomfortable feeling talking through this dialogue and be able to get people buying product. And I just want them all to understand that the client is buying product somewhere. We want it to be through you at the salon, no matter what we can do to be able to provide you with more of a living and a raised income. And, you know, Shop Local is going to be a huge campaign within our industry to get people to spend their money locally. And guess what? I think that message is going to resonate with residents around your salon or your clients. They're gonna see that messaging all over the place. It's not going to be the American Express, you know, Small Business Saturday. This is going to be a daily conversation. You know, it's going to be up in windows. It's going to be, you know, on commercials. You're going to see it in print. You're going to see a lot of Shop Local. And so, you know, I think it's important that, you know, we make sure it's accessible and that it is in that conversation with the consulting. You know, it's, you know, I was thinking, I think we can move on from retail and pricing and those kind of things, but I wanted to.
Really? Stylists love that topic. Are you sure?
I know they do. But here's a topic I know they love more than anything. And we don't have a whole lot of time to get through this, but, and it's what you and I both love about the salon industry, is that feeling that we get when we walk into a salon. You know, we're a touchy-feely industry, right? We like to be around people. We're social. You know, there's so much to it of where we, you know, walk in and people are hugging and they're kissing each other on the cheeks, and hopefully that's it. But, you know, they're shaking hands, they're saying goodbye, see you in weeks. How do we capture that feeling? What are some things that they can do to capture that?
What are some of the other things they're doing? You said hopefully just kissing. Now I'm curious. All right. So I have a lifetime of information to share on this. Tell me how much time I have to answer this question.
We got to talk about your book too.
Okay. So here's what I would share with you guys is here's the thing I want you to understand, just to shift your thinking, is that you had this almost unnatural advantage in life being in our industry because we were one of 6 professions. It was legal to touch someone. So you guys tracking with me at this point. Okay. So from a physiological standpoint, here's what happens with touch is that when you touch someone, there's a chemical release called oxytocin. And for the moms on that are listening into this, you might know this already, is that it's the same chemical that's released when a mother breastfeeds a child. And the reason that they push for breastfeeding is so that the child is pumped full of this oxytocin. So if you're still with me, studies have shown the higher the level of oxytocin in a person, the higher the level of trust with that person who triggered it. Do you see where trust keeps coming into play here?
Right.
And do you see where the client may trust you for other reasons, but from a physiological standpoint, when you're releasing this oxytocin? And so to your point, if you're hugging them, if you're rubbing their back, if you're giving them a kiss, if you're shaking their hand, you need to replicate the feeling, not the behavior. And this is something that I'm sharing with you, that there's new skills that are going to have to emerge for us as stylists. And what's going to happen now, think of this dynamic too. I was in a grocery store about 3 weeks ago. I didn't even think about it, Ward, but mask over my face. I smiled at someone.
Right, can't smile.
I couldn't see. I didn't know if they were frowning at me. I didn't know what's going on. It threw me off. And what's interesting with human beings is that we have a neuron in our brain. It's called the mirror neuron. Like when you look in the mirror, it just does exactly what you do.
Right.
And so there's this great study. You can go on YouTube and you can actually see the video. The mother has a baby, adorable baby, 6 months old. And she's cooing, she's smiling, and the baby's cooing and smiling back. And so in this video, they show it. The mother turns away, turns back at the baby. The baby coos and smiles. Nothing. The baby gets antsy. This is all within seconds, and then starts crying. The mother turns back around and smiles and coos. So from a societal standpoint, this is throwing us off. We are used to people smiling and engaging. It also lets us know how to react, right?
Right.
So for you, that's why it's so imperative that you find and develop new ways of communicating with that hug, with that pat on the back, the handshake communicated. So when I see, I might have to go, Ward, I am so excited to see you, bud. So good to see you. But if you notice, it was my hand gestures, my tonality, my verbiage, my volume. because
right.
we still need to replicate that feel. Here's the deal. People say, I want things to get back to normal. The normal they want is this familiarity. The familiarity is that when I go there, I feel better. That needs to be your hyper focus. Remember your mission. We make people feel better. They want to feel better. Do you see the connection there? Every decision has to go through that filter. And so you need to learn to communicate with your eyes, your energy level, your hands, your verbiage, your choice of words. You have to be conscientious because you're replicating something that was just almost like an unfair, unnatural advantage in life for
Right.
you.
Keep the enthusiasm high,
All
even
we
though
have
we can't
to.
touch.
Yeah.
That's great advice. Hey, we're gonna run out of time here in a minute. I wanted to just touch on a couple of things. Rebecca will put up your tags here in a sec so people can get a hold of you. But you gave me a book a year ago, signed, autographed, which I cherish, and the book is called "Leave Your Mark." And
Yes.
you didn't think I'd read it that fast, did you?
No,
I
I
had
didn't.
to quote out of it a couple times to make sure
You
you knew
surprised
that I
me.
read it.
Yeah.
But
Tell
anyway.
people it's mostly a picture book, but yes, you read the whole thing.
So, look, tell us a little. Take 1 minute. Tell us a little bit about the book, and tell us how people can get it.
Yeah. So with the book, first of all, it feels like a shameless plug. So so that you guys could trust me. My intention in sharing this with you is that it was a way. I believe that everybody wants to leave a mark. They want some return for their time spent in life. I get my worth and my significance from this work, and the people that I talk to in our industry get into this work for the exact same reason. So the book, Leave Your Mark, is about how you do it. Very tactically how you do this. And so the book, I want you to know 100% of the profits of the book go towards human trafficking. Well, it's doing fine by itself. It doesn't go towards supporting human trafficking, towards stopping human trafficking. Make that distinction, yes. Okay, so towards stopping human trafficking. And so we've been blessed to just have a mechanism and done a lot of great work with it. So if you decide to purchase the book, that's where that money goes, or the t-shirts that are on there. For you today, one of the things in the conversation with Ward is that he said, Jay, inspiration and motivation is phenomenal. We just need something sustainable in our thinking, in our business model, and in our tools. And what could we do for the group that gave them something that was a tool that was sustainable? So based on that, we've made it available to you guys that you can go to my website, which is J Williams Co. So it's JayWilliamsco. So JayWilliamsco.com. And just go to the store. And if you want to download an audio or an version of the book, put in the code Leave Your Mark, and it'll be yours complimentary. It'll be an instant download. And then it's just my part of wanting to be part of the solution here. So no accolades or anything, but I want to be part of the solution as far as what we do.
Awesome.
So can I give another shameless plug?
Of course you can.
Okay. My next book is called This versus That. It's called Better Thinking, Better Choices, Better Leader. June 1st, we're done, almost finished with the editing, and the graphics is going to be the next one, June 1st. So if you'll look out for that, that will be the next book. But here's the deal, is that knowledge won't be my point of difference. And you asked me about thinking early on, and we'll wrap up this way. And I realize that I'm not the brightest guy. I constantly am meeting people smarter than myself. If I have a gift as it relates to you guys and our time together, it's just new, different, and deeper thinking. And either it will be new to you or it'll validate your thinking, which we need as well, especially as small business owners may not get the exchange or exposure. Right. Or it'll just give you a framework for what I think a lot of you intuitively do already.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Jay. Hey man, it's been great having you here, being on Wednesday with Ward. It's cool. Next weekend, guys, our next Wednesday, guys, I've got John Maley from the Maley family. He's going to talk about some exciting things. So that's my shameless plug. I love having people come in with me on Wednesdays at 1 o'clock. Jay, you're an amazing man. Thank you for being a great friend. And
you're a
take
great
the time to
interviewer.
share.
You're a great interviewer, my friend. Thank you.
All right, buddy. Take care.
Thanks.
See you next.
You guys
see you
too.
next
Take
time.
care,
Be well,
guys.
everybody.
Thanks. Bye-bye.